Good evening, everybody. I've got 6 o'clock. Welcome to the Nampa Planning and Zoning Commission, January 14th, 2025. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. And Madam Clerk, if you'd call roll, please.
Garner.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Daffer.
Here.
Turner.
Here.
Kehoe.
Here.
Morgan.
Here.
Kirkman.
Here.
Selman. Here. Van Alker Jr.
Here.
All present.
Good start to the year.
Okay.
Staff, we're report on council actions. Rodney, do you want to do that quickly?
Yeah.
And then
I'll just do that one real
okay,
quick.
Great.
Chairman and Commissioners, we had 4 public hearings that went before City Council. The first one was, actually all of them were zoning map amendments that you had recommended approval on all of them, and they were all approved by City Council. So the first one was the one off of Chisholm Drive. It's KIVI, next to KIVI, and the Bath Fitters property there. So that one got approved. The next one is a rezone on Airport Road for construction and operation of a contractor's shop for an existing heating and cooling contractor's business. Again, that was approved. And then the next one was off of Garland Street, Garland and north of Sunny Ridge. And this one was a rezone to match the area zoning and for future development and potential lot split to RD, from RA to RD, and that one was approved. And then the last one was a rezone from RS 8.5 to RS 6, or excuse me, RS 8.5 to RS 6 and RD, and a preliminary plat for Ridgeview North. Off of North Franklin Boulevard, 18901 North Franklin. And that one was for single-family detached and attached dwelling units on a total of 235 building lots with 49 common lots, and that one was approved as well.
Okay. Thank you. All right, that time of year, we need to review officers and elect chair and vice chair of the commission for 2025. Do we have any nominations, or does anybody want to give a speech? Making speeches.
Give a speech, not to want to be on it?
Sure, if you want to do that, no. So, anybody have a nomination?
I nominate Ron to stay on. I think you did a great job this year. So,
For a whole year?
yeah, for another year.
Second.
There you go.
I'll nominate Brett if he wants to do it.
You want to nominate Brett too? No? What do you think there, Brett?
I think you've been seconded. You got to vote on that.
I don't think it's a motion, though, is it? It's just a nomination.
Just a nomination.
Yeah,
Once we get all the nominations, then we vote.
right. So we have Brett nominated and
Yourself.
myself, so I don't like to say my own name. Anybody else? How about vice chair? Do you want to vote on chairman, or wait till we have vice chair?
I think we vote on this.
Okay, vote on chairman. How do you want, do we want to call roll? Do we want to just say anybody for, are we doing sealed ballots?
Secret ballot.
I'm looking to our attorney. Is there any guidance there?
We should probably call roll.
Have we done this before?
Yeah.
I think so. Last year it was like, we're just staying.
Whoever got the short one.
Yeah.
Chair and members, we can do it based on roll call. I mean, you can do it how you would like to. I don't think there's a specific rule on that, so it can either be by vote, or you could do by ballot. So you could just write on a piece of paper and the number is who it is, or we can just do roll call and just go that way. So.
That's what I said.
Okay, we have Brett and myself nominated for chairman. Let's have the clerk call the roll, and you just say who you're voting for as your name's called.
Garner.
Commissioner Van Alker.
Miller.
Oh my gosh.
Pardon me.
Commissioner Vanna.
chairman.
Chairman.
People.
Right now.
Daffer,
Van Acker.
Turner,
Van Acker.
Kehoe,
Keep it going.
You're passing?
You're passing?
No,
Oh,
Van Acker.
to say a name.
Morgan,
Van Acker.
Kirkman,
Van Acker.
Selman,
Van Acker.
Well,
I guess I
and
don't-
Van Acker. Do you get
Miller.
to vote?
I knew that was coming.
Okay, the
Chairman,
chairman for 2025 will stay, I'll stay here. Thank you guys for your confidence.
thank you for the money.
Yeah, I don't pay you. The city does. Okay, vice chairman, any nominations?
Miller.
Nomination for
I'll
Commissioner
second it.
Miller. Any other nominations? All in favor of Commissioner Miller as vice chairman for 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we're good. So they switch chairs now? Or do we do that next meeting?
We could, either way.
I don't know if I want to move.
Wait. I made a mistake.
What do you mean?
All right, you're staying put. Next meeting, switch chairs, I guess.
Okay.
All right, moving on. That was fun. A review of the alternate meeting dates during the month of April due to an extra week, July due to an extra week, November due to the holidays, and December due to the holidays for 2025.
Switch screen, please. Thank you.
This is for alternate planning and zoning meeting dates.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. So you have that on your screen here and in your packet. We just had a couple of conflicts. We don't like to have P and Z meetings on the same day or the same week as City Council. It's really challenging for staff to get all that done. So we're proposing that in April, we move it to the 15th and the 29th. In July, we move it from July to the 15th and the 29th. And then we've got a kind of a strange situation. Veterans Day falls on Tuesday this year, and so that is a commission meeting that night. So we're proposing that we bump that to Wednesday, and then finally December 23rd, so close to Christmas Eve, we're proposing that we don't hold that meeting like we typically do.
That works. Do we need a vote on that?
I mean, I would appreciate it if
I entertain a motion to accept the calendar
So moved.
Second.
with the alternate dates.
Before we vote, Chair, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Since we're voting on this schedule right here, if the schedule changes, do we need to come back as a commission and vote on any changes?
Yes, you would. Yeah, because you've agreed to this calendar, that's what's going to be put out to the public. So if there's a modification, then we would need to do another vote to change that and then give notice to the public that the calendar's changed.
Okay. We have a motion. Who made the motion? Motion by incoming Vice Chair Miller.
Second.
Second by Gardner. All those in favor of the calendar with the alternate dates for 2025 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thank you. I would entertain a motion to accept and adopt the consent agenda unless there's any discussion.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Garner, second by Miller to adopt the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Consent agenda is approved, and we'll go ahead and move right into the public hearings. If you haven't signed up already, there's a sign-up sheet in the back, and you can sign up to speak for, against, or undecided on each item as we hear them tonight. We have kind of a full agenda this evening, 6 items. How we'll go about the meeting is we'll have the applicant come up. They'll have 7 minutes to present their project or application. Then we'll have the staff present the staff report that we received last week and have been through and read. Then after staff goes, we'll open it up for public testimony. If you are signed up, we'll call your name, come on up, state your name and address for the record as we're recording this evening, and you have 3 minutes to provide your testimony, ask your questions, voice your concerns, so on and so forth. After we've been through the list, we'll ask if anybody else would like to speak, just in case someone's changed their mind there in the audience. And then we'll bring the applicant back up to answer questions that are asked and provide closing remarks. We'll close the public hearing, deliberate amongst ourselves, and render decision on each item. So with that, we will go ahead and start with the first item on the agenda is an annexation and zoning to RS 8.5 and potential development agreement at 3106 South Stanford Street, 0.29 acre parcel located a 0.29 acre parcel for Scott Graviet, representing Carol J. Graviet Trust. Sorry if I butchered the name. For connection to city water. Is the applicant here this evening? Come on up, sir. And state your name and address for the
My
record.
name's Scott Gravier. I live at 3008 South Island Drive.
Thank you.
Nampa. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. So I'm appealing for annexation of this property for access to city water is the primary reason for this. This property is on a common well with, or was on a common well with 2 other properties. That well is now in disrepair and likely to fail, and I have no other resources other than city water to get to this residential property.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
I do.
Yes.
Sir, it says in our staff report that your property had water till November 1st of 2024, and then it was going to be cut off. Was it cut off?
No, this is a preemptive. The owner of the well has been having problems. We've had some outages, and so we had the well checked out. The casing is old and can't be replaced, and he can't sink a new well because of the proximity to his septic system. So he's trying to offload, I guess, extra use of his resources.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks. We'll call you back
Thank
if
you.
we have any. Thank you. Christy. Where did Christy go?
I think this is actually Terry's.
It is.
I don't think you've seen Terry before.
I've seen Terry before, but not in her role as
Yeah.
planner.
Good evening, Chairman Van Acker and Commissioners. My name is Terry Friend. I'm Associate Planner for the City of Nampa's Planning and Zoning Department. I'm pleased to present the details and analysis of the following application for your review tonight. As we were just discussing, this request is for annexation and zoning to RS 8.5, which is single-family residential, a potential development agreement for 3106 South Stanford Street, which is a 0.29 acre parcel. This application is for Scott Graviet, representing Carol J. Graviet Trust. We're looking for connection to city water this evening. I will note here that engineering has already accommodated this property owner's need by allowing the connection to city water prior to the annexation being complete. The proposed RS 8.5 is a permitted zone under the comprehensive map, future land use map designation of medium density residential. You'll see the surrounding properties here. To the north, it's a single-family residential subdivision, Bay Hill subdivision Phase 1. To the south is Canyon County residential parcels. To the east is Canyon County residential, as well as further east there, it's RS6 residential subdivision Wycliffe Estates. And to the west, we see RS18 residents directly west, and then a little further, we see Canyon County undeveloped parcels and residences. The property has an existing dwelling, which is a permitted use in the RS Single Family Residential Zoning District. The existing residence on this property aligns with others in the area with standard building construction, pitched roofs, garage, yard areas with trees and landscaping, and the existing structure meets the required setbacks as outlined in Nampa City Code 10.8. As you can see, this property is in a sea of medium-density residential comprehensive map, for future land use map designation. Some engineering details regarding this property. City utilities are in the area. Sewer is a bit of a distance at 315 feet west of the lot. The water main line is a 12-inch main that's across the north side of Dooley Lane, and pressure irrigation is about 140 foot west of the lot. The applicant will be required to pay utility connection and impact fees at the time of connection, and they have already done that with the water connection. For traffic, the public roads providing access to this property include West Dooley Lane, which is a collector road that has a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, and South Stanford Road, which is a local road with a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, which is owned and operated by the Nampa Highway District 1. And in terms of traffic and the roads there, if there was future development on this property, frontage improvements in accordance with Nampa City Code would be required. The property owner will be required to dedicate right-of-way along Dooley prior to annexation. In terms of correspondence, we have received the report from engineering. We also received a note from Boise Kuna Irrigation District that the property has 3.5 acres of water rights, and Nampa Highway District had no objection to the annexation, but that it would be subject to the revised memorandum of understanding. As a reminder, there's 4 criteria that must be met for annexation. First, all private landowners have consented to annexation. This annexation is by application by the property owner, and so it falls within the criteria as outlined in Idaho Statute 50-222.5 as the property owner giving consent. Next, the property shall be contiguous with the city limits. The property is contiguous with west and north sides abutting RS-18 and RS-6 zoned city properties. So that criteria is also met. Third, the Nampa Comprehensive Plan includes the area of annexation. So this property is located within the current Nampa area of impact boundary, as shown on the future land use map. The property is located in an area that's designated medium density residential on the future land use map. And the proposed RS 8.5 is a permitted zone under that future land use map designation of medium density residential. For all those listed reasons, staff finds that criteria also met. And finally, when applicable, for annexation of roadways, all portions of the highway lying partially or wholly to be annexed with the contiguous parcel unless express agreement by the highway district indicates otherwise. Again, this parcel complies with the established memorandum of understanding currently in place with the city of Nampa and the Nampa Highway District. So again, we have that criteria met. Next, we need to talk about zoning. As for zoning, there are 3 criteria. First, the proposed map amendment is in harmony with the city's currently adopted comprehensive plan and the comprehensive plan land use map. We find that the proposed annexation and zoning to RS 8.5 for the parcel is compatible with adjoining districts because it establishes an area of RS 8.5 zoning, which is appropriate for its lot size, as well as many of the surrounding developed and surrounding developments. Because the zoning district is permitted under the comprehensive plan future land use map designation of medium density. Next, the proposed map amendment is or would provide for proposed uses or sets of uses that would be at least reasonably compatible with existing adjoining properties. This parcel provides for a use that would be reasonably compatible with the existing city properties because it will be zoned with an RS or a single-family residential zoning designation where use is limited to residential only, and similar to the Bay Hill subdivision properties to the north, already within the Nampa city limits, which are zoned RS 6, single-family residential. And lastly, the proposed zoning map amendment is in the best interest of the public and reasonably necessary. We find that the public interest is met and it's reasonably necessary because it allows for an efficient use of the existing property and it has city services and services available to it, and it's required to dedicate right of way. The engineering department has recommended several conditions of approval as listed here. I will clarify number 3. The applicant, it was written differently in the staff report, so I want to make sure it's addressed. The applicant's going to be required to dedicate right-of-way along Dooley Lane, which was specified by Nampa Engineering Division. That'll need to be complete prior to the annexation. There's some complicated things going along the frontage there, so Nampa's Engineering Division has agreed to write the legal descriptions both for the annexation and the right-of-way dedication. Here are your potential motions on the left, and just as a reminder, the criteria for annexation and zoning have been restated on the right side of the screen. And I would welcome any questions.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, Steve. Commissioner.
Terry, I have a couple of questions. In the correspondence from code enforcement, they mentioned nuisances and maintenance unlawful. Do you know what those unlawful maintenance items were? Now that's a stretch, but.
I didn't include that in my summary, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of research. Give me a minute.
And it also mentions yard sales ongoing.
You're looking at the wrong one.
I am?
Yep.
You're on 2. We're on 1.
Well, when we get there,
Are you asking about the next project, Mr.
Goer
Keeler?
aheader.
Code compliance indicates that there was no code violations on the property when they checked.
It's like, wait a minute.
all right, thanks.
That's all right.
Apologize.
No problem.
Thank you.
Sure, quick question. In a situation like this, where seems pretty simple, why would a potential development agreement be included in this? What's the potential development agreement?
Presumably there would not be, but just in case anything specific came up when it hit city council, we always include that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, did the applicant, is he okay with the dedication of right-of-way that we've talked about as one of the conditions? Was he fine with that, do you know?
We didn't cover that during our conversation, but it was something that was covered during the pre-application meeting, that would be a requirement.
All right. Okay.
I have one might be for engineering or for Terry. Maybe I just don't know. The sewer being so far away, we're not requiring him to hook up at this time, right? He can just keep using I assume, a septic system?
That is correct. The septic sewer is not readily available to the property, and so until such time as it is, he would be able to continue to use the septic and deal with Southwest District Health if they were needing work on it.
And if his septic were to go the same direction as his well and start to fail, who's responsible for bringing it that last 300 feet?
So ultimately, he would work with the health district to see if they would allow him to repair the septic system. If not, then they would have to work out how they would extend that sewer to the property to connect.
Any questions? Right. I'll move on to public testimony for this item. Madam Clerk, is there a sign-up sheet for this one?
Mr. Chair, there is no one pre-signed up to speak on this item.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this application? Now's your chance. All right, Mr. Gravier, you want to come back up if you have any questions or anything else to say? Closing remarks? Or you don't have to.
Mr. Chairman, I really don't have any additional remarks. Just thank you for your time. And
And you're good with the staff report as it is presented? Okay,
yeah.
great. Thank you.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion by Garner and a second by Selman to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing's closed. Would hate to
If
deny
there's no
it.
discussion, Mr. Chair, I'd make a
Tear out
motion.
his connection.
Huh?
I said I would hate to deny it and have to tear out his.
Yeah, right?
Give
Especially
his
since
money
he's
back.
already connected.
And paid impact fees.
Okay, disconnect.
Pretty straightforward. Disconnect fee. Yeah. No.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to recommend approval of the annexation and zoning to RS 8.5 and a potential development agreement for the 0.29 acre parcel addressed at 3106 South Stanford Street for Scott Gravier, representing Carol J. Gravier Trust, with all the conditions listed in the staff report and the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Garner, second by Kirkman to recommend approval for this item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. That'll go to City Council. Watch the calendar, and thanks for coming out.
And go Columbia. They're playing Skyview tonight, that's what.
No. All right. Little high school basketball. Next item on the agenda is an annexation and zoning to RS6, potential development agreement and conditional use permit for a duplex in an RS6 zoning district at 7694 Birch Lane, 0.97 acre parcel for Robert and Margaret Bazuli for a future lot split with an existing residential dwellings to remain. Is the applicant here this evening? All right, come on up and let us know what you're planning to do.
We are currently on,
Need your name and address first, please.
as Robert Bazuli at 7694 Birch Lane. We are requesting to be annexed to the city to enable us to meet the requirements for zoning. Currently, we do not meet that. It's a county, in the county, and doesn't have the same comparable zoning available.
Okay.
So it's our long-term to split the property to take the existing buildings so that it can be in low, multiple housing.
Okay. So your plan is to split the lot later after you get annexed and zoned to
Correct.
do a duplex or something like that? Okay. Any questions? Anything else?
Nothing that I have.
All right, cool.
Okay, thank you.
Get through the staff report, and we'll call you back up if we have any questions. Just for the record, every one of my staff report says Christie on my notated agenda, so that's why I'm going to call her name every time. No. Rodney, this one.
Yeah, this one's mine.
Yep.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, Rodney Ashby, for the record, Director of Planning and Zoning. Again, this is annexation and a conditional use permit for a duplex, and then as part of the annexation, they'll be needing to do a lot split. So I'll kind of walk through that with you as we go through the slides here. Maybe. There we go. So here's an aerial view of the lot. You can see on the left-hand side there that the applicant purchased the property with the shop already converted to a duplex. The shop had county permits, but the conversion wasn't permitted in the county. So when they bought it, they bought it without the permits for the conversion of the shop into a duplex. So currently, sewer and water is handled through a single well and a septic on the entire property. The county does not allow 3 units on one property, and so they directed the property owners that they're going to need to come to the city to see if they can get that approved. So they'll need the annexation. They'll also need a lot split, and I just put this in as a potential. This isn't the actual drawing of what they are actually proposing, but this might be something like this to get the lot split to be the right size according to code for the new duplex. And then CUP for the duplex, and that's both the annexation and the CUP are before you today. And then they'll need to dedicate and improve the right-of-way. They will require a building permit and certificate of occupancy from the building department. And they'll need a health district approval for how they handle the water and the sewer. That's likely going to be the case that they'll need to connect to city services in order to get the extra services to that duplex because it's on a separate lot. So that all those things have to be done for this to work, but that's the proposal today, is to start that process. So staff recommendation, based on the comprehensive plan, the meeting of the code, as long as they follow all those processes that I've outlined, have no concern there. It seems to comply with the code and with the plans we have in place. So our comp plan, medium density designation, the zoning, a little closer view here, it's surrounded by RS6 on all sides. So it's a true enclave here. And then services are available in the road to the south. And let's see, I think all of them are in there. You can see the specific locations. But again, just staff note, that we expect Southwest District Health to require connection to city water and sewer services per property. A little closer view of the aerial. Here's the annexation criteria. You've heard that from Terry earlier, and then also the zoning criteria. I'm not going to go over those. Those are in your packet and on the screen. Some specific regulations for the RS zoning district. You can see those bulk and spatial requirements here. The setbacks, all of these things will need to be met even during the lot split. We'll have to comply with all of these standards. The RS6 zone is an allowed zone in the medium density designation on the comp plan future land use map. And the lot sizes range from 6 to 12,000 square feet. Again, they'll have to figure that out. What they can do is their existing single family has already been permitted, so they could have a legal non-conforming lot that is a larger lot size, but they'll have to meet the requirements of the duplex since it's being permitted. So whatever lot size they have to get to, they have to comply with 12,000 being the max. Again, the requirement in our land use table, section 10.3.2, requiring a conditional use permit for a dwelling duplex. Off-street parking, I just put this in here because since it wasn't permitted at the time of the conversion, we will still require this, that they provide at least one parking space that's covered and one parking space that doesn't have to be covered per unit that they're addressing. So if you look back on the aerial view here, I could see, I've got another view if you want to see, but it looked like there's a garage here, so they'll just have to prove that both units have access to that two-car garage so that they can have one parking space that's covered for each. And then, as you can see there, the home seems to have the required parking.
Rodney?
Yes.
While you were on that one, there doesn't look like there's a lot of space, so between the shop and the side of the house there.
Correct.
Are you going to require yeah, thank you. A shared road agreement for those two properties, because it doesn't look like you'd be able to stay far enough away
Right.
from either one.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, yes, if that's the case, again, this is just my line I threw on there, right? So if they decide to put that line where I proposed, then they'll have to have a legal access to that property. And so, yeah, some kind of cross-access agreement, or they may just, yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different ways that they could do it. They could even add a garage if they wanted to the front, and just have the access in front and not require the same, driveway be used. However, that property line still needs to be set back, or the building needs to be set back from the property line. So my guess is this is how they're going to do it, something similar to this. But yes, you're absolutely correct. Okay, so got through that. Conditional use permits, and I just highlighted in bold the second paragraph there. The purpose of review shall be to determine that the characteristics of any such use shall not be unreasonable or incompatible with the type of uses permitted in surrounding areas, and for stipulating such conditions as may be reasonable so that the basic purposes of the chapter shall be served. So again, you have some kind of expectation that these uses, these land uses that require a conditional use permit, are permitted uses. You just have to put the conditions on them to mitigate the impact to neighboring properties. If you can't do that, then that's a reason for denial of a conditional use permit. Here are the criteria that have to be found. Each of these criteria need to be found in order to approve a conditional use permit. And I'll give just a second there, but you've seen these quite a bit before. But just for the public's sake, here's the criteria that they have to follow, each one of these. And public comments, we didn't receive any. Pretty straightforward project in some ways, I would say. But we did receive some comments from the code compliance team, as Commissioner Kehoe had mentioned. The nuisances, maintenance, unlawful. That section is regarding, they mentioned several things like noise, fumes, light, smells, those kinds of things in our code is a nuisance. So likely, my guess is that there's been some complaints about yard sales and noise impacting the neighbors. I'm guessing that wasn't listed on the code compliance communication with us, but everything else on their communication seemed to be revolving around the use of the property for selling of clothes and equipment and things that seem to come from residential use.
But Rodney, sorry, Mr. Chair, those complaints, if they are such, were because of county code, correct? They weren't complaints against any city code or potential city code violations. Those were county code violations, correct?
Yeah, correct. I mean, we don't have, this isn't annexed into the city, and so we couldn't have processed any of these concerns. My guess is that we've gotten calls and we had to reroute them to Canyon County.
So if this is approved, that they would just need to come into compliance with Nampa City
Correct.
Code. So,
and that's one of the conditions on the application. Yeah. Next is Nampa Fire District. Does not oppose the application. But I just listed this here because existing access and water supply meets the fire district's requirements. However, there's some complexity there, right? Because we're creating a new property with a lot split in the future. So they're evaluating this based on 3 units on a single property, all being owned by the same property owner. Whereas we are suggesting that in order for this to work in the RS6 zone, a lot split has to occur. We do not allow 3 units on the same property in the RS6 zone. Okay, so Nampa Development Engineering, I listed all of their comments and conditions here and incorporated their conditions into the proposed conditions at the end of my slides here. Nampa Building Department wanted compliance with Title IV. Conditional use permit, duplex requires building permits and compliance with Title IV again. So they'll have to go through that process that I outlined earlier. So staff analysis, I'm not going to go over all of this, but I think we've addressed all of the comments that I've included in the staff report about land uses and the need for splitting the property. Conditional use, duplexes, sometimes we get pushback against duplexes in the RS6 zone. It's the next step in the line of density from single family to duplex. It's the next step you can take. So it's, from planning's perspective, going to an extreme where you're having high-rise apartment complex is, you have to transition somehow. Well, how do you transition? You start getting a little more density, and this is the next step in that. And so our comp plan does call for duplexes to be allowed in these areas, and the zoning, RS6 zoning, does permit a conditional, a duplex with a conditional use permit. So by assumption, we're saying our plans and our code, they do allow for duplexes in these areas with a conditional use permit. Public interest, I think we've handled most of that. Again, the comprehensive plan tries to outline the public interest. Here are the proposed conditions, and I'll just point you to number 6. Applicant owners shall address all code violations outlined in the Nampa Code Compliance email dated November 4th from Juan Vergara, and ensure a code compliance officer inspects and documents that the violations have been resolved prior to annexation ordinance being read by City Council. So if there's a business going on, we need to stop that because it's a residential zone. But if it's just an infrequent yard sale or something like that, then it would comply with code. The code compliance officers have agreed to do an inspection prior to reading the ordinance, and so that's what we're suggesting as a condition. And then number 7 is that they ensure that the parking is met, the parking requirement is met prior to approval of the duplex. Here are the proposed findings. I'm not going to go through each bullet point, but just conclusions. The property owner has shown consent to annex by applying. The property is contiguous with the city limits on all sides of the property. The proposed area of annexation is included in the comp plan because it is in the impact area contained in the comprehensive plan. It is identified as medium density residential, and the plan narrative describes the land uses allowed in this area. In addition, the Nampa City Code specifically lists the RS6 zoning districts as an appropriate zone for the medium density residential designation on the future land use map. Next one, the proposed annexation for the property complies with established memorandum of understanding currently in place between the City of Nampa and Nampa Highway District Number 1. And then for the zoning conclusions or the findings, the proposed RS6 zoning district is in harmony with the city's adopted comprehensive plan and map because it falls within the designation on the map for medium-density residential. Nampa code listed as an approved zone in that designation. Next, with the proposed conditions of approval, the proposed map amendment provides for proposed uses that will be reasonably compatible with existing adjoining property uses because the land uses are listed as compatible with single-family residential in the comp plan and in the zoning code, and all adjoining properties are single-family uses. Next, for zoning still, the proposed amendment would be in the interest of the public and reasonably necessary because residential development is an essential component of city needs and interests and is supported by the comp plan, including infill. In addition, the area is already developed or is developing and city services are available or are already being provided in the area. Next is the conditional use permit criteria. The proposed duplex in an RS6 zoning district meets the goals and strategies outlined in the comp plan. We've kind of talked about that already, the map and the narrative. Next is the proposed duplex in an RS6 zone will not adversely impact the intended character and appearance of the general vicinity. The building will not change in appearance from a residence, no change, so it doesn't seem to be impacting anything. The proposed duplex in an RS6 zoning district is able to be served adequately by essential public facilities and services because the residence is in proximity to essential public facilities and services, including sewer, water, pressurized irrigation, police and fire district services, and there's capacity to serve the property. And finally, I've got two more, sorry. The proposed duplex will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community because the primary use of the property will continue to be residential and will provide housing that has been identified as a need within the community. And finally, the proposed duplex will not involve activities or processes, materials, equipment, and conditions of operation that will be detrimental to any person, property, or general welfare by reason of excessive traffic, noise, smoke, fume, glare, or odors because it will retain its residential status and will not generate any environmental changes in the area. And with that, that was a mouthful, but here are your potential motions, and I would stand for any questions you have.
Any questions for Rodney?
Mr. Chair, one question.
Yes.
So when you talk, it sounds like this is when you are going to require the improvements on the roadway. So is there going to be like a 10-foot by 100-foot sidewalk running in front of this?
So, yes, there is that potential.
Potential, not requirement, or?
So typically, we would give them the opportunity to ask for a deferral, and that would go to council in this, and they would make an ultimate decision, but the code would require them to do that if with the building permit that they would pull to bring the duplex into conformance.
So the deferral means when the city's ready to do it, they have to help.
Yep, they would have to fund their portion.
Thanks.
Rodney, has there been a lot of discussion with the applicant about connection to city services, and is that the plan at this time?
No, that was more of a discovery that I found as I went through the process. Yeah, I think we need to bring that out in the open.
Parking and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Great. Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to public testimony. Madam Clerk, is there a sign-up sheet for this item?
Mr. Chair, there is no one pre-signed up to speak on this item.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this application? Now's your chance. All right, Mr. Brazuli, can you come back up for a couple of questions?
Yes.
So, given everything you heard in the staff report, is it your plan to hook up to city sewer, water, take care of the parking needs, the code compliance issues, all that you understand and
All of that
you're ready
has
to take care
been
of it?
discussed with the city. And yes, we were aware, and you know, it's our intent.
And there's no business?
The only thing I didn't know of was the sidewalk and that there are none on that side of the street.
Right.
But we would, absolutely pay our fair share when the city decides to do that.
Okay. And then There's no business operating in the shop? It's
No,
two
the yard
living-
sales that were mentioned was my effort to downsize, and
Okay.
there is no longer a yard sale going on.
Okay, great. Thanks. Any other questions for the applicant? You have anything else you'd like to say, or?
No, that
Okay.
one, it's been covered, I think.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion, we close public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Kirkman and a second by Miller to close the public hearing for this item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, public hearing's closed.
There's no discussion, Mr. Chair. I'll go ahead and move to recommend approval of the annexation and zoning to RS6 with a potential development agreement and conditional use permit for duplex in RS6 zoning district 7694 Birch Lane for Robert and Margaret Bazuli with the proposed conditions and formal findings.
A motion by Commissioner Miller and a second by Daffer to recommend approval for these items. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. That'll move on to City Council. Thank you. Moving right along to the third item on the agenda this evening is an annexation and zoning to BC Community Business and Potential Development Agreement at 0 Ustick Road, a 15-acre parcel located, or a 15-acre parcel for Connor Lindstrom of KM Engineering LLP, representing Jackson Food Stores, Inc., for a fuel station and convenience store location with potential for future commercial development project. Is the applicant here this evening? Come on up, state your name and address for the record, and tell us about the project.
Thank you, Chairman and Commission. My name is Connor Lindstrom with KM Engineering. Address at 5725 North Discovery Way, Boise, Idaho, 83713. I'm here to represent Jackson's Food Stores for this application. The presentation you'll see in front of you just has a few slides on it. I'll try to be fairly brief. But we're proposing to annex and zone this property that you see outlined here into the city of Nampa to accommodate a future Jackson's fuel sales facility. Oh, thank you. And store. So this property, it's roughly 15 acres. It's at the southeast corner of Franklin and Ustick Roads. To the west, you have the Astoria Park subdivision, and then to the north and the east, you have various rural residential properties, some ag land to the south, as is this property right now. So currently the property is in unincorporated Cannon County. The goal is to annex the entirety of the 15 acres into the city of Nampa. We have contiguous city limits properties to the west and the south there, so we are contiguous, and hence why we're requesting the annexation. With the zoning, we'd like to see the BC zoning district, which is the community business zoning district. We feel that this aligns most seamlessly with the proposed fuel sales facility that Jackson's would like to build there in the northwest corner of the property. Next, the zoning, we feel it aligns well with the area, and this is the future land use map for the city. So you'll see the property in blue there. It is within the community mixed use designation, but just to the north of that, you have a commercial designation. Now, given that you have some existing residences there within that commercial area to the north, it could happen in the future that that's developed commercially, but it's not as likely. We have this property here that is currently undeveloped, and the city does allow for you to float that designation across Ustick there. So we feel that this zoning designation of BC and commercial will align with what the city envisions for commercial, this to be a commercial node for that intersection there. Getting into the actual site itself, so here, let me, if I go, sorry. So this is the 15 acres, right? It's within that blue square. The very northwest corner is about 2.76 acres is what Jackson's, yeah, right in there. That's what Jackson's looking to actually build on. And so this is the kind of a zoomed in picture of what that site will most likely look like. This is you have your service, convenience store there, roughly about 5,000 square feet. That'll be surrounded by passenger vehicle parking, 27 spaces, 2 of which will be ADA parking spaces. And then to the north there, you have your fuel canopy. 8 pumps are shown, which means that you have like 16 spots for vehicles to pull up and get gas. And then off to the east side there, you have some more oversized vehicle parking, RVs, boats, that way they're not taking up space around the actual store there. They can come in and park. Access will be, we have a Franklin access, and then to the east, it doesn't show, I'll show it in a future slide, but there will be access to Ustick as well. Let's see here. As far as connection to city services go, we will be connecting to sewer and water. Or at least the engineers in my office have been working with Daniel on some options for sewer connection. Ustick Road, the plan is for a trunk line to come down Ustick Road further to the site. It's not there yet. There is a connection possibility across the way in Borealis. You see it there, kind of in the southwest corner of this site. We've been working with Daniel to hopefully connect to that temporarily, and then as Ustick Road has availability for sewer connections, Jackson would connect at that time. So there will be it's a condition, I believe, in the staff report that there's a dry line put in from Ustick Road that when connection is available, we would connect. Daniel you can talk to him more about that if you like. These are just some proposed elevations. This is not set in stone, but this is a great understanding of what the site will actually look like, or what the store will look like, rather. We will have to do, it's my understanding, we'll have to do a design review application with this too. So, if the annexation and zoning is approved, Jackson's would have to submit that after the fact. And kind of with this overall annexation, like I said, Jackson's only proposes to develop the northwest corner. They currently own the entire property, but they would like to do an administrative split via, I believe it's a property boundary adjustment, is what I was told by Christie, to create that 2.75 acres. And then the rest of the property would be for future development to take place. It would have to align with the BC zoning district, and any design review or building permits would have to be filed separately. But Jackson's is just showing this as a conceptual site plan as to what it could look like. This is subject to change, but this shows various commercial buildings that could have multiple users within them. No residential development, anything like that. It would just be commercial. I don't have anything else, so we agree with the staff report. Jackson's agrees with the findings and conditions, and I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay. We will hear from staff.
Thank you.
Play back up.
Do you want this back?
Who's this one?
I think it's Christie.
It's Christie on mine.
It does say Christie. Is Christie here? I
Christie on
don't
mine
see
too.
Christie.
Mr. Chair, Christie has had a family emergency, so she's out of the state right now. And so several of us are covering for Christie, and this one I'll be presenting. She did do the staff report and the presentation, but I'm prepared to present it.
Okay.
Okay, so again, fuel station, convenience store, and then potential future development as commercial is what's being proposed here. As has been stated, they're contiguous with the city on the south and to the west. And I thought that was a really good point. There is quite a bit of some rural residential development here that's existing, and the comp plan does call that out as commercial, but it's some existing homes where this one is undeveloped. So I think that's a valid point he made. See, I'll keep going here. You can see the property there. And what they're proposing to do, just to be very clear, is stretch that designation of commercial onto this property here. So it can be stretched one parcel deep, and then they could do the lot split as the property boundary adjustment to get the one corner partitioned off to develop on.
Mr. Chair, can I ask, just to clarify, is BC not permitted zone for community mixed use?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, the BC zone is permitted. However, in community mixed use, you are required to do at least a 5% of another land use. And typically that's been multifamily or some other land use, but mostly it's been like multifamily, so a mix of uses. Whereas by stretching the designation to the north of commercial onto this property, they could do it without having to do any of the residential land uses. A little closer view there. Here's the location of that sewer line. You can see I just put a big yellow arrow there. And then there's the other properties that have sewer in this area that they potentially could connect to temporarily, but I haven't received any information on that. Maybe Christy did, but my understanding is, and the communication from engineering was just that they would need to connect to the USTIC pipeline there. But there is available services except for the sewer, which they could potentially get. Traffic, they will have to dedicate the right-of-way for both roadways here, both 50 feet from center line. And then a traffic impact study is very likely to be required, but that gets done at time of the building permit, and then they'll have to make the improvements that are required that are identified in the traffic impact study. And then the 10-foot wide side paths along the arterial roadways, so both of the major roadways there would have to have the 10-foot pathway. Here's probably a good concept view. You can see the area that they would propose to develop out of the entire parcel that's being annexed. And then the rest of this would be available for some type of commercial use. And Christy just wanted to point out that this will go through design review in order to get approved. Engineering had their comments. Those were attached in the staff report, and Christy just wanted to direct your attention back to that, but they expressed they list the utilities in the right-of-way dedication and the TIS study. Okay, so staff findings, again, you're familiar with these, the annexations and zoning findings that must be found. I'll just jump to the conclusions on each of these. The property proposed for annexation falls under the category A. This is inaccurate. We don't have category A anymore. I think she probably did this before we talked about this. So Idaho Codes was changed this past year to list some specific new criteria for annexations. And you've seen those on the couple that we've already presented tonight. But they follow really closely. So we're probably going to have to come, we'll have to present the formal findings to City Council, but they're pretty close to what we were already doing. And so the findings of fact here are consistent with that. So I think what we'll have to do is bring back to you some findings of fact for you to approve, because these are not consistent with the existing city or state code. So again, I'll just kind of go over the facts of the case, but we'll bring back findings to you. So the applicant has made application for annexation, so that meets the criteria for that they provide consent. Property shall be contiguous with city limits or be enclaved by other properties so annexed. Oh, yeah, thank you. So the first one is all private landowners have consented to annexation. That first bullet point there does meet that criteria. The second one is property shall be contiguous with the city limits. And it appears that she's got everything else right except for the category A. That's no longer in code. So it appears that she's following the new code, but listing category A was just the only exception there. Nampa Comprehensive Plan includes the area of annexation, and that's accurate. The proposed annexation for the parcel is available for annexation because it is located within the current impact area and is shown on the future land use map in the comp plan and matches the designations and policies shown on the future land use map. Next one, when applicable for annexation of roadways, all portions of highways lying partially or wholly to be annexed with a contiguous parcel unless by express agreement with the Highway Maintenance District indicates otherwise. Again, it complies because it's consistent with the MOU that's in place with the Highway District. And then these are for zoning. The proposed map amendment for the parcel is compatible with adjoining districts because it establishes the BC zoning district. And by stretching, you can place that there, the designation from the comp plan, future land use map. The proposed map would provide for a proposed use or set of uses that would be at least reasonably compatible with existing adjoining property uses because North Nampa is in need of commercial services to serve the residents of that area. And that area is, as you've seen, was designated as community mixed use, and across the street was the commercial. Then the proposed annexation map amendment is in the public interest and reasonably necessary because it allows for future commercial services in an area of Nampa that is lacking commercial services for residents. It has city services and utilities available to be brought to it and is required to dedicate right-of-way to the city for future infrastructure improvements along Franklin and Ustick. Here are the proposed conditions of approval. You can see the requirement for the side path there and the frontage improvements. And I think these are mostly just engineering requirements, and then not just, I shouldn't say it like that, Daniel. They are the engineering requirements. And then a couple of motions for your consideration, and I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Questions for Rodney?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Rodney, where is the next closest fueling station to this one? Do you know?
Cherry Lane and, well, Cherry Lane, Conrad Bischoff's on.
Maybe
But 2026 as well.
Yep.
There's one, I don't think it's on Franklin, I think it's on Madison maybe. I don't remember exactly, but.
Is there anything in code that says what would be the optimum location for things like this within a certain area to maximize? No? Okay.
There's not, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Kehoe, there's not anything in code. There is in a comprehensive plan just the general idea that we need to have a mix of uses to support the residential.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move to public testimony for this item. Madam Clerk, is there a sign-up sheet?
Mr. Chair, we do have one person signed up. That's Warren Ragar. Sorry about that.
Remember, state your name and address for the record.
Sure.
You got 3 minutes to tell us what you're thinking.
My name is Warren Ragel. My address is 7799 Ustick. So I live in the rural property just to the east of this proposed annexed site. So that 6 acre, that long skinny strip. I can't say I'm thrilled to see commercial business come right next to my property, but I understand that growth can enhance the community. if it's done the right way. So I have questions, and maybe they're a little bit premature. I know access point for the east part of the property that would access USTIC. I'm questioning where that access point would be. I think about the traffic flow. I'm sure that's the number one complaint anytime you have a development like this, but I imagine, handled the right way, it could possibly be okay. But my understanding is there's going to be a roundabout coming, USTIC and Franklin, potentially, and maybe how would that impact the access entry points to this property? And if there's a U-turn lane, I've talked to Daniel about some of this stuff, but I wanted to come here tonight just to listen to see if anything had changed, and voice just a little bit of concern about, making sure it's done the right way. There's property, my property being just to the east of it, obviously this is going to change a lot of things as far as property value. This is a property I bought April of 2020, so I've invested quite a bit of money into the property, enhancing it. So it's one of these things that, I either need to pivot and do something different with the land, or I know there's not a lot of people looking for a 6-acre farm, sandwiched between two developments. So we got Trestle Creek to the west or to the east, and then this potential coming in. So I, appreciate the time. I just wanted to get a few answers to those questions about like sewer when it was coming. So I'm really here just to kind of soak this in, but also kind of voice some of the concerns about access points. That's all I had.
Appreciate it. We will get your questions answered as best we can. Anybody else who would like to speak for, against, or undecided, come on up. Excuse me.
Commissioners, Chairman, my name is Sherry Brown, 7900 USTIC Road, which is just north of their proposed site. We live in a 1906 two-story original home for that area with a big wood red barn with horses, lassie dogs, sheep, sometimes cows. And I really hate to see this go in. As it is, sometimes we can't pull out of our driveway. It's 50 miles an hour along the road. And, I worry about the noise, the smell, the drug deals at the gas stations, the police, the lights, all that. We're trying to stay kind of bucolic agriculture back there. We've got big lawns and a pasture and horses and, there's 3 gas stations, between 2 and 3 miles south on Franklin. There's the one on Chinden and Franklin, which is a mile north. I also worry a little bit about our well. We have a well, we have a septic tank. So that's just my concerns. I just hate to see, there are a lot of 1-acre parcels with homes on it along USTIC Road going east. I see people driving 50 miles an hour trying to pass, so, you can't pull out onto the road safely anymore. So I'm opposed, and just wanted to voice my opinion. Thank you.
Is there anybody else here that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this application? Come on up, sir.
Commissioner, I'm Dennis Brown. I'm the husband of Sherry Brown who just spoke.
Yep.
I was just looking into pollution from gas stations. The fumes are bad. They're not good for residential areas. And they actually can be pretty bad for a well, so they recommend at least 500 feet from a well. And we live right across the street from those guys. So 500 feet is going to be something. They'll have to get a measuring tape out to make sure it's that far, but even that, I don't trust it. It's just, we've got a nice old place. We've been there since '98, and paid a lot of taxes along the way to keep our place there. And I'm totally opposed to this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak? Yes.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Daly. I live at 7889 East Bratton Drive. I'm at the Merriweather Park subdivision, which is right below this parcel. And I didn't really prepare anything to say, but I've seen the signs going up. We moved here in 2021. This is our first house. We have 2 kids. We chose this area because it felt rural, it felt safe. There are a lot of young families in my neighborhood, and none of us want this gas station there. We see our kids growing up, we see them wanting to go there, we see them, we see a lot of traffic coming in the area. It also is opening the door for that future commercial site, which again, none of us want that. We moved here, we moved to this area of Nampa, to North Nampa, because it felt rural, right? If we wanted to live near a gas station, we would have moved near a gas station. Most of us get our gas at Costco, or we get it at Maverick, and we jump onto the 84. There is no need, I see no need for this to be here. I strongly oppose it. I really feel for the other people that have come up here and spoken, as well as all the residents that live along that area of Ustick, that is going to be their front view from the homes that they have bought and have lived there for years. Their home value is going to decrease. Most likely the home value in my neighborhood will also decrease if the views from our homes are the backs of residential buildings, the backs of commercial buildings. Totally understand that land needs to be developed, but we want to see it residential if it's going to be developed. So I do strongly oppose this, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak on this item? Sir?
My name is Larry Wilson. We live right across the street from this. I'm really concerned about my well being polluted. The noise, the traffic is unreal right now, and this is just going to make it even worse. But I'm really worried about my well being polluted, because I live right across the street from this.
Okay, thank you. Oh, we did not get your, Mr. Wilson, can you just give us your address for the record?
7790 Ustick Road.
7790 Ustick Road, is that correct? Okay, good. All right. Anybody else like to speak this evening? All right. Mr. Lindstrom, come on back up, and if you could just kind of address the comments and concerns. And
yeah, you bet. Thank you, Chairman. Connor Lindstrom, applicant representing Jackson's. So let's see, a few things to go through. So yeah, the property to the east, appreciate the gentleman coming tonight. So his concerns were about the access to the site. I don't know, Rodney, if you can pull back up that conceptual site plan. Yeah, so I think what he's talking about is, yeah, that entrance there. So obviously with this, you know, if this did get approved, we have this larger commercial development that could take place in the future. It would be the intention to have both access from Franklin and Ustick Roads, to have 2 points of access for fire flow and vehicular flow through the area. As far as where that is actually located on Ustick, that access, I believe that would be dictated by city code based on, and you know, the highway district standards based on where that would be located in terms of where the intersection is for Ustick and Franklin. So we would have to abide by that code section. I think that's why that is located further to the east, but that might be a better question for you to ask staff. As far as just the adjacency of this use to other residential uses, it was mentioned there will have to be a design review specifically for the Jackson site. as well as any future commercial uses that you see here in that conceptual area. So those will have to go through design review. So there have to be landscaping, screening, all those standards will have to be met based on what, the use is adjacent to. So just keep that in mind as well. As for this area, it was mentioned by a few folks, this being more of a rural area in nature. I understand that, yes, years ago it was a rural area, and it still is very much. There's some parts of this area that are rural in nature. It's also vastly growing, Canyon County, as we know, and this area is within the City of Nampa's future land use map to grow. They outline this as a community mixed-use area with commercial too. So the city envisions this area growing. I know that's tough to swallow for some, but this development for Jackson's, it wouldn't be proposed here if they didn't do their market research, and it shows that there's growing subdivisions in this area, and with that, commercial uses will be able to provide a service for those residents. Lastly, let's see here. We talked about, the neighbors talked about concerns with traffic. We'll have to abide by any city standards as far as, with the traffic impact study that'll have to be provided before the building permit. So a traffic engineer will have to be hired, and they're going to do a thorough review of the uses and the amount of traffic that's going to put on the roadway. And so with that, there will be mitigation efforts that have to take place. The city is already requiring widening for this area along both Ustick and Franklin roadways. So there will have to be improvements that are done. As far as a roundabout or a traffic signal there at that intersection, it wavered back and forth. The last I heard, there's not going to be a roundabout. It's going to be traffic signal. Perhaps you can ask staff about that, though. And then let's see here. Then pollution, and in regards to the wells that are nearby, I can't speak to the ins and outs of what that 500-foot buffer was that gentleman mentioned. I think that's maybe something he found that is like a best practice, perhaps. The actual fuel storage area that would be underground, that would have to be fully, intact. There's measures that have to be, precautions that have to be taken through both state code with DEQ as well as with the city engineer as far as handling any kind of pollutants that are potentially harmful to the environment or to residents. So, we would definitely follow any city engineering standards and any conditions of approval that would be in place. I can't think of any other things that were mentioned that I can address. If there's any questions you have for me, though, I can.
I think you covered most. How far is the fuel island from the closest house? Do you know?
I do not know off the top of my head, no. The other site plan that's more detailed might show the distance between the fuel canopy and the roadway.
Okay, so just to be clear, the only access you're planning, this development's planning right now is off of Franklin, correct?
So both Franklin, thank you, Chairman, both Franklin and Ustick Road are proposed.
Where on Ustick Road?
So Ustick is, if you see there, it doesn't show, it's not on this proposed future parcel. As you recall, there's the entire 15 acres, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be to the east, and it would be a shared access.
Oh, so you have a little road going out to
exactly.
A drive aisle.
Usually how that's handled is it's just, pavement that would allow for access to the site. And then once that surrounding property develops in the future, then would go in all your other improvements like, the additional landscaping and curb gutter, sidewalk, those kind of things on that portion of the property. If I'm mistaken, though, perhaps staff can provide some clarity.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
And a couple more. Is there any proposed tenants for the other buildings around the development yet, or are they just throwing
Yeah, Chairman.
Looks like you guys just putting boxes on.
Yep, that's, thanks, Chairman. Yeah, there are not any proposed users at this time that I've been told by Jackson's. That's really just conceptual. It's the city, I mean, you guys and council and staff that like to see what it could look like, what a vision could be. So this is a vision for the site. It had been shared with staff as well, for our pre-app meeting. And yeah, there were no concerns brought up by staff. I mean, the uses that could go in here could vary, but at the end of the day, they're going to have to abide by the BC zoning district. And in your packet from staff, there's a list of uses, both conditional and permitted, that could be allowed within that zone. But this is something that it could look like. Once again, though, this is conceptual, and any future buildings and uses would have to go through their own design review process, building permits. And if there was a development agreement by the city council, they could put that in place to limit the types of uses as well.
Okay. Commissioner Kirkman, sorry.
Yeah, sorry for the interruption. Just a quick question, maybe for staff, but are there minimum setback requirements for fuel pumps and islands from a roadway?
We don't have any in code for that.
No.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Looking at that rendering right there, I assume the future commercial area will be bare ground, so you'll only have one entrance and exit until the other commercial area gets built in?
Two. They'll put the one on U-stick and build like a little drive aisle to the fuel pumps to access the Jacksons.
So they'll pave it and all that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That is correct, and that would, that would be for both vehicular access and for emergency service access too. Usually we like to see 2 points of access to the site.
That's why I was asking the question, because I didn't think you were going to put it in the commercial area until later, because you mentioned like it's going to be a long way off. So you're just going to build a roadway for entrance and exit?
Correct, yep.
All right.
But not the one to the south on Franklin.
That is correct, yep. That one would not be needed for this Jackson's ingress egress, so hence that would be for the future. That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, one last question. Do you have any idea from your position with the company if there's ever been a leak or anything like that from a Jackson's fuel station, fuel pump, whatever, into the ground?
Commissioner Kirkman, I am not aware of any. Like I said, I'm just representing Jackson's as KM Engineering, so they haven't told me about any, but
I wouldn't imagine so. And they're pretty strict standards too, when you're putting that in the ground. But I think there's a legitimate concern that was brought up, and I think it's just something to.
Absolutely, no, I appreciate it. Yep, like I said, there's many standards they have to follow, both city and state level. Definitely with DEQ, because it's a hazardous, material that they're storing on site, so they have to follow their protocol and standards.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Lindstrom? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, do you want to close public hearing before we talk to staff, or?
I think so. Yeah, we can close and then.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second. A motion by Commissioner Gardner and Garner, sorry. I always call you Gardner.
I wore my gloves.
And a second by Morgan to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. All right, motion carries. Public hearing's closed. Intersection, Daniel, what's the plan for the traffic flow there?
So that will be a signalized intersection rather than a roundabout. With some of the grant funding stuff that we have gotten through the state for improvements on U-stick, through that design process and that, it will be U-stick will be a roundabout corridor, I believe, from it's either Madison or North Side to the west, and a signal corridor from whichever those, from Franklin or Madison to the east, based on the designs that have been done with the grants that we've received from the state for the portions from Canada over to Highway 16, that was determined. So a signal at Franklin at this point.
Okay, and that's due to funding?
Mostly? Various reasons, but yeah.
Okay. How about well pollution concerns?
So the tanks themselves are governed by the Department of Environmental Quality. They have all the standards for the separations from wells and they would be the ones that would be permitting those. The applicant will be required to follow all rules that IDEQ has for underground storage tanks. Generally speaking, they're double walled. They have all the appropriate things. I'm unaware of a leaking fuel tank in the last during my term here at the city. We certainly have had them in the past, long before I came, where there was one down the old town pump on 16th and 3rd, had leaking stuff that affects some groundwater downtown. That's been remediated at this point. There are a couple of others throughout town that I'm aware of that are more back from the 70s or before, but I'm not aware of any in recent history.
Okay, what about timing on the utility sewer?
So the sewer, we got approval from City Council for for some additional design and a CMGC, so construction manager, general contractor delivery method for the sewer in Ustick. We are working towards having that under construction. Ideally, sometime in the summer would be the start of construction. We're working to, within the next 2 years, have that complete out to Canada in Ustick. That's a pretty aggressive time frame, but that is the goal we're working more towards today, so that sewer in Ustick is imminent, barring some other factors coming into play.
That's good. Thank you.
Question, Rodney. Along the eastern boundary of the conceptual development, what's the separation required from the commercial buildings to the property line? And what's going to be, I'm sure there's going to be some kind of a separation between it and residential?
Mr. Chair and Commissioner, it's a great question. I didn't do this application, so let me look that up real quick. I think there's a setback from residential properties, but I need to confirm that. So give me just a second and I'll look that up.
And would it matter if it's city or county?
Zoned residential in the city.
It does matter for the projects that I've looked at recently. It does matter whether it's annexed into the city. So because that's a county property, I'm guessing that there's not a restriction on the setback, but you could put, because of your concerns, you could have a residential buffer of some kind. You could do a landscape buffer of some kind.
Oh, I was just waiting for his answer. Yeah. No, and I think for our purposes here, I think I would just basically assume the property next door that is in the county, we consider it city, and whatever the required setback would be, that's what gets put in, whether that's development agreement or a condition of approval. I don't know.
Yeah, and before it's developed too, so it's already there.
Well, if that gets developed, it likely won't be developed as residential.
Right, yep.
Not if it's commercially zoned.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, it is required to be set back when it's zoned in the city as RS or RD, but, and that setback is 10 feet. So it's a landscape, essentially a landscape buffer or a setback, maybe they use it for parking or whatever, but yeah, it's a setback of 10 feet. But since this is not zoned, it's not annexed next to it, it wouldn't have a setback requirement.
No setback?
No setback.
And what kind of leeway do we have to, can we put in there, 10 feet's not that much. That's not going to give you much separation between their fence line and this development, so can we change that? And how much?
Well, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I don't know that I can tell you how much, but I'm kind of looking to our attorney here. It has to be reasonable, but I think you have some flexibility to require something to mitigate a concern that you have, but I wouldn't say that 50 feet is reasonable, right?
No, I was thinking more along the lines of 15 to 20.
Yeah.
15, 20 being on the high side.
I think that's pretty standard language in some of our code. For some of the setbacks, like industrial, I think is 15, yeah.
But the code, if that property were annexed already, it would only be 10 feet.
Yeah, I mean, can we really
That's
condition
correct.
something more than
Increase
code?
that when everybody else has to follow what the code says when they're building next to annexed property.
Well, I'm just thinking, to me, it seems like right now, this is out in the middle of the country, kind of, you know? I mean, there's some other subdivisions, but you look at the houses across the street, those are country homes, and they've got barns and they've got animals, and that's just right across the street. And so for me, it does feel like we're getting way out there with the commercial development. Now, granted, that conceptual part, that might not be done for years, right? But I'm just saying that in terms of making concessions to protect the neighbors around, I'm sure the neighbor next door probably would appreciate a 15-foot setback.
That's the one I'm thinking of too, but can we really go outside and be inconsistent with whatever the?
Well, if we're gonna, I mean, we could say no, or we could say, move it to 15 feet. And I mean, I'm assuming that K&M or Jackson's or whatever is probably gonna say, yeah, we'll go 15 feet, as opposed to being shut down because it's too far out in the country. That's just what I'm thinking, you know.
Let's say.
Commissioners, I think what it comes down to is you guys have kind of discretion to negotiate with the applicant. Now, the code may say 10 feet, right? And so going beyond that would need to be reasonable, as Rodney pointed out. If the applicant, however, is in agreement with that recommendation, if you say, hey, are you guys open to a setback that is more than what the code requires, and they're okay with that, then you can move forward, because obviously there's an agreement there. But if the applicant pushes back and says, well, no, we really want that 10-foot, there may be some challenges there because the code only requires 10.
Well, to be clear, the code requires 0.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah.
Right now.
The way that it is right now, yeah. But if there's a 10-foot, so it just depends on that. But, the applicant, if the applicant is willing to do something outside of the code on their own, then you can proceed in that fashion because the applicant is agreeing to it. But if they don't, then,
Right.
you got to stick to whatever the code allows or requires.
Yeah.
So you're suggesting that would be part of a potential development agreement, not a condition?
Correct. I would say it would be part of the development agreement because it wouldn't be a condition of approval because the code requires 0. And so you can't require them to do 10 or 15. So it would be a development agreement where they would agree to a larger setback than what is code.
Since there's no requirement right now for a setback, can we condition on something like this for them to put in a privacy fence or a separation of some sort like that on the lot line to at least give some type of separation?
Commissioner, I'm not quite sure the answer to that. I'd have to look into that. Ronnie, would that be design review?
So Mr. Chair and Commissioners, actually, that is a requirement when there's a residential use. So that is a little different than just the zoning, it's a residential use. So,
Even if it's a residence.
yeah, you're going to,
County.
correct,
It's a requirement.
correct.
Okay.
So would they have to put that fence up with the gas station or not until they build that?
Not until they build out.
But is that something we could require at this point on a situation like this as a condition? I guess that's my question, is adding that condition sooner than later on some type of fence or
Mike?
that separates that county.
I'd have a concern with that being that far out away from the building. I think over the years of vandalism and repairs to keep that thing up would just get costly because it's too far away from the Jacksons. And and the weeds start to grow up and you got kids out there hiding and pretty soon you got fences getting torn down or graffitied. And I just think it's too far, it would be too far away to require it at the time the Jacksons goes in.
The open field provides a separation for now.
Yeah. My thought anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I agree too.
But I'm open to the 10-foot to match our other, if assuming that property was already in the city, we'd have the 10-foot. I'm open to that.
And I'd say at least we need to do something like that. Because who knows?
Couple questions, just for me, my understanding. For some reason, I was thinking this was part of a specific area plan. Didn't we have something all along Ustick? Or is it
Mr. Chair and
south?
Commissioners, this is just outside of that.
Okay. Where does it end? Can you remind me?
So Ustick is the boundary for the north.
Ustick is the north boundary?
No, I'm sorry, for the
The south
north.
boundary.
We used to call it North Nampa, but it's the 2026 southern boundary of the 2026 south specific area
So
plan.
across the street is in the specific area plan, but this is not.
Let me bring up the future land use map, and I can show you exactly.
Thanks. I guess what I'm getting at is, right now, this is a rural field, but the city has made it clear that they're planning on Ustick becoming a corridor, between basically, I guess, 84 and 16.
What's the address?
And having that whole thing get more developed. So right now, I kind of agree that it doesn't really fit there, but if the plan is to develop that out, I'll wait for, which I guess makes sense, is why it's commercial on the north side of the street and not on the south side.
So, Mr. Chair, what you see on the screen is the green boundary is the specific area plan for the 2026 specific area plan. And the property that we're talking about is right to the south here, right here. So it's just outside.
And that's all designated as community mixed use right now. What residential uses are allowed in there? Isn't it all multifamily?
That's correct. Mr. Chair and Commissioners, this community mixed use would require, if you went to residential, it would require multifamily.
Which, I guess, to my point earlier, if the 6 acre strip there developed, it wouldn't be single-family residential. It would be commercial. It's industrial on one side and commercial on the other. Maybe you stick multifamily in there. I don't know if that would fit real well, but I don't know. You guys plan on staying?
Considering like what?
No. Well, you can't. Sorry, I was looking for a nod.
But considering what Rodney was talking about, right, if you think about the levels of density, and how they step back from high density residential, and you step back farther and farther and farther, and so right there at that intersection with commercial you're going to have higher residential right in that area. That's just, you know, the way it makes sense. But I guess just in, like I said, in terms of, in the meantime, right, before it all develops out, and even with that conceptual plan, I think that it's responsible for us to put some kind of buffer there, some kind of a.
I don't think anybody's going to have heartburn about it, so there's no reason not to. So.
How do you feel about the commercial zoning for that entire 15 acres?
I don't know. I like pockets, I've said this before, I like pockets of commercial around the town so that people aren't having to drive into Costco, aren't having to drive all over down into that mess at Marketplace to go shopping, to run to the gas station real quick. So I like the idea of it, but there's different levels of gas station. Like we have one on a corner near where our subdivision is, and it's actually not that bad. And I think it's because of the landscape buffering. They don't have a lot of lighting, you know, all the lighting's straight down, and it doesn't have a huge commercial feel, but other gas stations in the city do not. And I don't know which requirements will be followed here. Is there different requirements for different gas stations depending on where you know, and is that something we can solve in design review so it's not as glaring? I don't know. You understand my question?
Maybe not. Maybe you better.
I don't blame you.
repeat it.
Does anybody?
I understand.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Some gas station, like the Chevron by where you live, is pretty commercial.
Yeah.
The
Well, and
Chevron by where I live feels more residential, I guess.
Well, in the Chevron over by where I live, which is Southside and Greenhurst, you have that commercial property, which is kitty corner from it, plus you have property on the other side. So that whole corner there.
It fits there.
And so it fits. That commercial area right there fits. But where you're at, it's just that one Chevron that just kind of blends in with the residential. And so the question I think he's asking is, can design review require that at this stage? I mean, we don't know what that whole corner is going to look like.
It's zoned commercial.
Yeah, well, it's zoned commercial. Therefore, you know, I doubt we could require it to look more like residential.
But I would feel better if it did, based on the development that's around it currently.
So we make requirements that it can't glow?
Yeah, no glowing.
I mean, it's all about lighting, right? And not
Night skies ordinance, right?
Sure.
That's what that's all about, is making sure things don't glow.
There's nothing in code right now that would tell them anything different, whether it was near a residential versus commercial area. We do have lighting standards that they be hooded, the lights be hooded, and I don't know how long ago and what the code was in place at the time the gas station is that you're speaking about went in.
Mine's newer than his.
Yeah, so maybe because of those hooded requirements, that helped with that scenario. But, so just quickly, design review cannot, they're not going to look at landscaping and site layout, except as it relates to the covering up, so landscaping, covering up some utility boxes or something like that. So they can do that, but they can't look at landscaping for site planning.
So they can't require a landscape buffer on all.
No, that is right here, right now, what you can put some conditions on the project.
Well, Ron, you asked the question, what do you think about this whole thing being BC?
I'm actually shocked that there's not a representative from Jackson's here, given the size of the parcel. I mean, I've known those guys a long time, and they've done a lot of stores in this market, and they should know better. I'm probably going to eat those words if anybody reads our minutes, but that's okay. I mean, they're going to spend $4 million, $5 million bucks on this store once it's all said and done, and I think the site has some issues. It's a big site. 15 acres is a lot of land, and you can build a lot of stuff there. And the BC zone is a wide range of uses. So a development agreement is definitely warranted. It just depends on if we want to go through all that, or hopefully somebody from the Jackson's team will be at the city council meeting and they can address concerns, because I think they're going to have the same concerns or more than we do. But I'm not saying I just don't like the project outright. I live in this area of town, and I fill up at Conrad Bischoff because that's kind of the only thing out there that's not busy. Is there a need for this? I don't know. It seems like there is, because there's a really big neighborhood right next to it that probably will shop at Jackson's despite.
They wouldn't build it if it wasn't going to get.
I know. They're smart people. So, I don't know. I'm kind of torn.
Without a development agreement in place, is it possible in the future that Jackson's could come back and want to change the rest of this parcel into mixed use? If they realize that maybe the community, or maybe the need for more commercial isn't warranted for the rest of that site, and then come back to the city and want to change the zoning for the rest of this site without a development agreement, is that possible? Or would a development agreement preclude that, and they would just have to stick with commercial no matter what?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, it depends.
You sound like an attorney.
I've taken lessons. It depends on what gets put into the development agreement. If they have a concept plan that City Council locks them in place and says, here's the concept plan, then that's it. That's what they have to do. And if they list land uses that are approved in there, that'll lock them down too. If they just approve the development without a development agreement, or without some specifics in the development agreement, then they have all kinds of options, because we don't change the comprehensive plan future land use map designation when they stretch. It only allows them to establish a zoning district. So the BC zone is what they're establishing because they're stretching. That locks into place what land uses are allowed in the BC zone. So they could come back and say, hey, this is community mixed use on the comp plan. We would like to do apartments, but now they're going to have to either rezone a portion of it, or they're going to have to get a conditional use permit to get the multifamily.
I kind of like that neighborhood business designation we have for areas like this. You know, kind of let you have some commercial, but not as intense. But nobody ever wants to apply for that. They always want to apply for BC.
You're in the wrong field.
Southwest corner of Ustick and Franklin. Oh, okay.
I'm saying you should
Or southeast corner. I don't know. I guess I've been talking for a while, and I'm torn because doesn't fit now, but it'll probably fit once the rest of Ustick gets developed.
I think if they're just annexing and zoning just that gas station site, I wouldn't have much of a problem, but doing the entire thing without more solid concept plan, I think is harder for me to stomach.
I think there's going to be a need, though, as soon as this area along Ustick starts building out with, I mean, you look out there and there's all kinds of subdivisions that are being built, and and commercial follows rooftops, and so I think there is going to be a need for this site, and it'll be a while before the rest of the site builds out into commercial, but I think the need is still going to be there. So I'm okay with this being, personally, I'm okay with this being zoned all BC, and then waiting for that to build out when the rest of the homes go in, especially along Ustick.
I think
mean,
I-
that's a straight shot to 16, so it's just going to be nothing but.
I think I'm okay with it too. I wonder, does anybody else feel like we should have some landscape buffering along the main roads?
Yeah, I think there needs to be, but there's got to be code that's going to direct what it is. I don't know that it needs to be more excessive than normal. right?
What would code require now?
I'm going to have to look that up again. When we do subdivisions, we have a greater landscape buffer. But with this being commercial and not the landscape buffer, let me look that up real quick.
It's probably around 10 feet. That's what you see all the others.
But I'd
10-foot
be fine with
piece of grass,
more,
strip of grass or something through the.
Kind of helps transition.
Well, and you
know,
gotta
from
be, you gotta be limited on the landscaping anyways, so you come up to the intersection, you still have line of sight too, so.
I think we're going to want commercial out there. I don't think we want to put in more homes. 'Cause-
Daniel just said they're going to, within 2 years, you're planning on having the sewer all the way down to Canada?
Well, summer next year, he said they're going to be under construction.
That's
that's
you
the
get
goal.
You get that sewer line that far, there's going to be a lot of stuff coming down. 16 will be done by then. So
I
there'll
would
be a lot of stuff.
anticipate that with the sewer going in, we will see a
Rapid.
increase in development applications in the area.
Yeah. And I don't know about going outside our boundaries and requiring just this one because it's out there in the country right now, feel that we require them to do more than we would if it was another gas station that was closer in. I have a hard time requiring somebody to do something else just because it's out there right now. I'm like I say, I'm good with the 10-foot boundary down the east side to protect that 6-acre strip that goes down there. So if it does get developed before he decides to do something different, he's got some cushion there. But to go and make them do more along Ustick and Franklin, and just because it's out in the country, I think we're overstepping our bounds, and we should keep it with what's already in code. But
So, Mr. Chair, it looks to me like there's a footnote that I'm a little confused on here, but I think it's saying 20 feet as the landscape requirement. The required landscape buffer depth is 20 feet in a BC zone. Yeah.
And I should know this because I've almost memorized the code, but not quite. Is there definitions of how tall that needs to be or anything like that somewhere?
Are you referring to like a berm?
Or just the landscaping itself? They got to be trees?
Yeah, there are really specific requirements for that landscape buffer. The number of trees, how they're spaced, what is the ground cover, those are all in code, yeah.
So it is trees, it's not just,
Correct, yeah.
yeah.
Grass.
I'm okay with the 20-foot buffer. Yeah, I guess I'll summarize and then shut up for a while.
Make that motion.
I get the concerns, and I have some of the concerns. I just think looking to the future, we're going to regret filling this up with subdivisions if that's what we end up doing. We want some mixed use out there, and
You know, I think of, like, for me, sometimes I'm trying to envision what this could be. And I think of the corner of Roosevelt and Midland, you have a Chevron station. And you have Dallin Woods subdivision, which is a fairly nice subdivision. But right on that corner, right up against it, is a strip mall. It's got a pizza joint in it. It's got a pharmacy in it. It's got a jeweler in it. It's got these businesses, right? But nobody, I don't look at that and go, ooh, gross. That's, it's nice to have it there and it works. It's very successful. And that's, kind of what we have going on here. You have a commercial development right on that corner.
but those are all neighborhood business.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And so I think that's the challenging part, is to come up with the development agreement that's specific enough to protect it, you know?
And I'm kind of nervous limiting it, because this whole area is going to be different by the time that's built out.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I'm good with the addition of the 10 feet down the east side. I think that's all we really need to do.
So do we need to add that in the motion as part of a potential development agreement?
Yeah.
What else are we missing?
That's it.
Make it look nice?
Yep.
Said they're doing design reviews,
I
so.
think they will, yeah.
Yeah, I think it will.
Put yourself in there as a consultant.
Can't do that. It's against the rules.
I don't make things look nice. Okay.
Do it.
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the annexation and zoning to BC and potential development agreement, including a 10-foot setback. Is that what we're calling it?
Setback.
10-foot setback on the east side of the property at 0 Ustick Road for Connor Lindstrom of KM Engineering LLP, representing Jackson Food Stores Incorporated, with all conditions listed in the staff report, and to adopt the proposed findings of approval.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Morgan and a second by Kehoe to recommend approval of the annexation zoning to BC with the additional conditions and the development agreement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. That will go to City Council, and appreciate everybody's time tonight. Thanks.
Mr. Chair, can we have a break?
Yep, we'll take a 5 to 7 minute break. We'll be back here at 8:09, 8:08. Item number 4 is an annexation and zoning to RS6 for .70 acre parcel at 0 South Grays Lane. Zoning map amendment from RS18 to RS6 for .52 acre parcel addressed as 507 South Grays Lane and potential development agreement. Both parcels for Stephen A. and Josie Vreeland for an annexation of one parcel into the city, rezone the second parcel to align the zoning of both parcels for future lot line adjustment, followed by a lot split to create a total of 3 parcels, one for the existing dwelling to remain, and 2 lots for future development. Hello. Please state your name and address and tell us what you'd like to do.
I'm Steve Breland, 507 South.
Right on. We'll see you back up here. Staff report.
Christie.
Who's going to take this one?
This one's Damien. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
All right.
I will be taking this over for Christie. All right. The requested action item is annexation and zoning for RS6 residential of a .7 acre parcel addressed to 0 South Grays Lane and a zoning map amendment from RS18 to RS6 single family residential for the .52 acre parcel addressed 507 South Grays Lane. The original concept is to annex the one parcel into the city, rezone the second parcel to align with the zoning of both parcels for future lot line adjustment to be followed and split into a total of 3 parcels, one for the existing dwelling domain and 2 for future development. And so for the applicant's request, this consists of 2 pieces, and that would be the annexation and zoning to meet the zoned RS6 and the rezoning of 507 South Grays Lane to RS6 to meet the City of Nampa future land use map and comprehensive plan. The second part would be the property boundary adjustment and the lot consolidation and lot line adjustment for the other parcel into 2 parcels. Thank you. So some of the property details. The surrounding properties to the north, we have RS18, single-family residential, the Western County Estate subs. To the south, we have RA, which is suburban residential, and BC, community business. The development of Amity Crossing commercial development, and a single-family residence. To the east, we have RS6, single-family residential, the Park Ridge Meadows sub, and to the west, we have Canyon County residential and BC community business zoning, the Amity Crossing. The proposed, looks like a typo, RS6 is a permitted zone under the comprehensive plan future land use map under the designation of medium density residential. So here is some of the property details. Per the comprehensive plan, this does fit within the designation. It looks like the image on this one is incorrect, but it is in a sea of medium density residential and commercial to the south. And here is a map of that from the comprehensive plan map. So currently the property does have access to utilities. There is domestic water, sewer, and pressure irrigation within a reasonable distance of the property. And as far as traffic, there will be right-of-way dedication on South Grays Lane, 40 feet from the section line, and a traffic impact study will not likely be required for this project. The developer shall adhere to currently adopted standards for road sections and include the installation of a 10-foot wide side path along arterial roads. For correspondence, the fire department lists comments regarding regarding water supply, emergency access, and references to international fire and building codes. This proposed development is located 1.9 miles away from Nampa Fire Station number 5, with an approximate response time of 5 minutes. Engineering lists the utility and right-of-way dedication and improvement in the traffic impact study requirements. Also lists conditions of approval. See the attached. All right, so here are the findings for annexation. First requirement, all private landowners must have consented to annexation. The conclusion on that, this property for proposed annexation falls under the annexation criteria outlined in Idaho statute because the owner has given consent to annex the property as stated for the above use. B, that the property shall be contiguous with the way of city limits, not only through a shoestring connection or a strip of land comprising of highway right-of-way. In conclusion, this property falls in proposed annexation. It falls under annexation criteria because it is contiguous and currently enclaved. C, the Nampa Comprehensive Plan includes the area of annexation. In conclusion, the proposed annexation for parcel number R318000100 is available for annexation because it is located within the Nampa impact area and future land use map and currently matches the designations. And for findings D, when applicable for the annexation of roadways, all portion of highways lying partially or wholly to be annexed with contiguous parcel unless by express agreement with highway maintenance districts indicate otherwise. Conclusion, the annexation for the parcel complies with the established memorandum of understanding and currently is in place with the City of Nampa and Nampa Highway District Number 1. Staff findings for zoning. The proposed map amendments are or would be in harmony with the city's currently adopted comprehensive plan and comprehensive planned land use map. The conclusion is the proposed annexation and map amendments for the parcels are compatible with adjoining districts because it establishes an area of RS6 zoning that will ultimately create lots the same size as surrounding developed lots, and because the zoning district is permitted under the comprehensive plan future land use map and the designation of medium density. The second criteria is the proposed map amendments are or would provide for a proposed use or set of uses that would be at least reasonably compatible with the existing adjoining property uses. The proposed annexation and map amendments for the parcels do provide a set of uses that will be reasonably compatible for the existing city property uses because it is zoned the same as the surrounding subdivision properties with RS6 zoning. Third criteria is the proposed zoning map amendments is in the interest of public and is reasonably necessary. The proposed annexation and map amendments for the parcels is in the public interest and is reasonably necessary because it allows for efficient use of existing property. It has city services and utilities available to it and is required to dedicate right-of-way to future city infrastructure and improvement along South Grays Lane. Here are the recommended conditions of approval with the conditions of approval from engineering and any other that the commission may choose to impose. Here are your potential motions, and I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Damian? All right. Let's move to public testimony. Madam Clerk, is there a sign-up sheet?
We have no one signed up to speak on this item.
Okay. Is there anybody here in the audience that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this application?
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question of staff before he comes back up?
Sure.
Just to make sure I'm understanding.
Yep.
The lot line adjustments and splits are not under our purview, right?
We do have property boundary adjustments that are within the city, and as long as it is one split into two parcels, that is a staff level. Once it is more than that, it becomes a subdivision short plat process. After 7, it becomes a final plat process. But we do handle that as staff within the city.
Okay, so for us tonight, we're not really even reviewing the splitting and the lot line adjustments. We're just what you have in front of you. Just wanted to, I mean, it's good context, but really not up to us.
Yep.
Anybody else? All right, Mr. Vreeland, you got any final thoughts or questions or comments, or anybody have questions for Mr. Vreeland? Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm just trying to bring the parcel that we're annexing into the city. It's surrounded by city. It's a little triangle of county that doesn't really make any sense. So,
We like that. Thank you.
We appreciate that.
just not usable in the county the way it is. It's not big enough to do anything with, so.
All righty.
I have one question maybe. Currently, those parcels are accessed off Gray's Lane, right?
Correct.
Not the subdivision. And are we adding any access points? Or is it all just be accessed off?
It'll be accessed off Gray's Lane, just like everything else along that area.
And are we adding any new driveways or access points?
So I suppose potentially, after a lot split and there are buildable lots there, then that would create driveways.
Could
But
be.
we have had discussions with staff about where those access points would be, and we feel that we will have those addressed in our further applications.
All right, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
A motion by Commissioner Kehoe and a second by Daffer. I don't want to call you Gardner again. Yeah.
Gardner.
Second by Commissioner Daffer. To close the public hearing, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We are closed.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion if there's no opposition to that. I move to approve the annexation and zoning to RS6 for a 0.7 acre parcel addressed as 0 Grays Lane, zoning map amendment from RS18 to RS6 for a 0.52 acre parcel addressed at 507 South Grays Lane, and potential development agreement for Stephen A. and E. Josie Vreeland, with all conditions listed in the staff report, and to adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Daffer and a second by Morgan to recommend approval of the annexation and zoning and the rezone. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. That will also go to council. Thank you for your patience. Item number 5 is another annexation and zoning to RS6 zoning district and potential development agreement for 7 acres and 2 parcels at 11281 Moss Lane for Craig Kolchek of RCK Consultants representing Lyle and Sherry Johnson for the original concept of connection to city services. Is the applicant here this evening? Okay, come on up.
Commission Chair, Commissioners, my name is Craig Kolchak. My address is 4839 North Mountain View Drive, Boise, Idaho, 83704. I'm here for the annexation of the 7 acres located on Moss Lane at 11281. And I'm representing Lyle and Sharon. They've lived in that property for 27 years. And it's basically a little island of Canyon County. They abut residential on both the southwest side of the property and the north side of the property. The southwest is R6. I'm not quite sure what the north is. It's kind of a trailer park. But the opportunity to have city services, since they've been there for 27 years, is appealing, and that's why we're annexing the property. Any questions?
So no development plans at this
Not in the
time,
future,
just
no.
sewer and water and PI, okay?
Development from Moss Lane would be pretty impossible. It's 7.5 feet deep for the sewer. It's an 8-inch sewer line, and there's a 12-inch water main across the street, but it'd be difficult to develop that off of Moss Lane.
Good? Pretty good? All right, we're good. Thank
All
you.
right.
We'll call you back up if we have questions.
Thank you.
Staff report, Damian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Today, the requested action item is the annexation and zoning to RS6, single-family residential. The original concept is connection to city services. So the property details: to the north, we have RD two-family duplex, which is residential. To the south, we have single-family homes within the county. To the east, we have single-family county parcels followed by some BC zoning. And to the west, we have single-family county parcels followed by RS6. The proposed RS6 is a permitted zone under the comprehensive plan future land use map and the designation of medium-density residential. So per the comprehensive plan, this falls right within the sea of medium-density residential. At this time, the lot would be large and would just be legally non-conforming until time of development, but at this time, this is only for annexation of city services. So currently, the city maintains the following utilities in the area. It has access to utilities, domestic water, sewer, and pressurized irrigation. So for correspondence, these are notes from the Nampa Engineering Division. These are general notes that are defined, and Nampa Engineering will be responsible for submitting a legal description of the right-of-ways. They will be requiring right-of-way on Moss Lane and on Hunt Ave to match the existing right-of-way on the rest of Hunt. And sorry if I botched this, Fab Ave, 6 feet along the west, and frontage improvements, but other than the dedication of right-of-way, these will be required at the time of development. Traffic impact study is required for this project, required for a project generating more than 100 new vehicle trips in a day, or peak hour 1,000 new daily trips, and it will most likely not be required for this project, and utilities are still available in the area. Here are some of the general conditions by the Nampa Engineering Division and the dedicated right-of-way that will be a condition of annexation. And with that a frontage improvement will be needed and the construction of a side path along Moss Lane at the time of development of the property, and that it will be in accordance with Nampa City Code Section 9-3-1 at time of development. Nampa Fire does not oppose this application, and here are their comments on water supply fire access comments, which are pretty standard for fire access at time of development. So we did receive one public comment that had concerns over the development and lot size. However, this is not relevant to the application since there is no housing development taking place at this time, just access to city utilities. Here are the findings for annexation. All the private landowners have consented to the annexation. The property and parcels for the proposed annexation have fall under the annexation requirement. The proposed property owner has consented to the annexation for the proposed use. The second, that the property shall be contiguous with city limits, not only through a shoestring connection or strip of land comprising of a highway or right-of-way. The property and parcel numbers proposed for annexation fall under the criteria outlined by Idaho statute 50-222, because it is in city limit, contiguous with city limits and enclaved. Number three, the comprehensive plan includes the area of annexation. Currently, this falls under the future land use map as medium density residential and is contiguous and in coherence with the 2040 Nampa Comprehensive Plan and matches the future land use map. Criteria number 4, the application, when applicable for annexation of roadways, all portions of highway lying partially or wholly to be annexed with the contiguous parcel unless by express agreement with the highway maintenance districts indicates otherwise. The proposed annexation of the parcels complies with the established memorandum of understanding currently in place with the City of Nampa and Highway District Number 1. And here are the findings for the zoning. The proposed map amendments are in harmony and with the city's currently adopted comprehensive plan and comprehensive plan land use map. And for this location, it is an infill location, and it is something that we are looking for per the comprehensive plan for development and annexation. The proposed map amendment is in harmony with the City of Nampa's currently adopted comprehensive plan map because it falls within the medium density residential. As stated earlier, it will just be legally non-conforming until the time of development. The proposed map amendment would provide for a proposed use or set of uses that is least reasonably compatible with existing and adjoining properties. At this current time, the property use will not change. With the proposed conditions of approval, the proposed map amendment provides that this will be reasonably compatible. And the third criteria is that the proposed amendments would be in the interest of public and reasonably necessary. The adjoined properties on all sides are zoned single-family residential, except for the north. And the comprehensive plan is intended to communicate the public interest in development and encourages landfill. So with that, the proposed amendment would be within the best interest and for the public and reasonably necessary because the reduction of infill is necessary for the development of the city. And here are the recommended conditions for approval within the staff report. I did miss out on the engineering ones, so these are the ones that were highlighted from engineering's conditions for that dedication of right-of-way, and so I could show it to you on the screen. Here are your potentials motions, and I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for Damian? All right, thank you. We will move on to public testimony. And Madam Clerk, do we have a sign up for this item?
Mr. Chair, we have no one signed up for this item.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this project? All right.
I make a motion, we close public hearing.
Mr. Kolchak, I'm going to ask the applicant if they want to come back.
Okay.
Any final thoughts, comments? Or if anybody has questions, I don't think we do. It's pretty straightforward, but.
I'm for this project.
Excellent. It's good. I think we're good. Thank you.
Now I make a motion, we close public hearing.
Okay. Second. A motion by Commissioner Selman and a second by Kehoe to close a public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing's closed. What do y'all think?
Does this motion need to have adopting conditions and findings?
It's an annexation and zoning.
I think so.
Yes.
Pretty standard.
Okay.
Is it not on there?
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out. We need to have that on there.
And the reason that I wouldn't have noticed it, except for I was going to clarify if we have to do it as presented, not as in our packet.
Correct, yeah.
Which what's considered the staff report? We usually say by what's in the staff report is this the staff report or is what's in our packet the staff report?
I would say as presented.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's my concern with this project.
Yeah. Make the motion, man.
Make the motion then.
All right. I move we recommend approval of the annexation and zoning to RS6 zoning district and potential development agreement for 7 acres at 11281 Moss Lane for Craig Kolchak of RCK Consultants representing Lyle and Sharon Johnson. I usually have words to read here, and adopt the findings
Conditions of approval.
with the conditions as presented during the meeting and with the proposed findings.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Morgan and a second by Daffer to recommend approval for the annexation and zoning. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. That will also go to City Council. Thanks for your patience, and good luck at City Council. Last item on the agenda this evening is an annexation and zoning to IL Light Industrial. Ooh, saved the best one for last. Zoning district and potential development agreement for a 1.01 acre parcel at Zero Landon Lane for Steel National, representing Victor Onofrichuk. How'd I do? For the connection to the city water for future construction of a metal building as flex space for commercial uses yet to be determined.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm
Hello.
Victor Onofrichuk.
What's that?
I'm Victor Onofrichuk.
Can you move close to the mic and speak up a little bit?
My name is Victor Onofrichuk.
Thank you.
0 Landon Lane, Nampa, Idaho, 83651.
Perfect. What are you planning to do?
For the connection to the city water, for the future steel building. Yeah.
Cool. We'll hear from staff and we'll call you back up if we have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rodney Ashby, Planning and Zoning Director. As he stated, they're planning on doing a metal building, a flex space building, and they need connection to utilities and the zoning in place to get the permits. So I'll go through this pretty quickly, hopefully. There we go. We find it meets the comp plan and the zoning standards. The comp plan does call for commercial, but it's a budding industrial to the north, so similar to the one we had earlier where you can stretch that designation to the south. There's the land uses in the area. It's primarily some industrial uses, even though it's designated as commercial in the future land use map. It's a lot of it has been developed out as industrial. Utilities are, oh, sorry, I should have moved through that pretty quickly. IL, you can see that IL zoning in the area already, even to the south. Here's the utilities. So there are utilities available, at least the sewer and the water. Irrigation is not in the immediate area. Traffic. A traffic impact study is required for anything generating more than 100 new vehicle trips during a peak hour or 1,000 new daily trips. So it will not be required on this project. Here's the criteria that are required in state code and in our local code for zoning. And here's some of the description for the IL zone. What is required as far as the standards for setbacks and lot width. And here's just a note: exterior storage of raw or primary materials shall be prohibited in that area unless they're screened by fencing or landscaping. So public comments received, we didn't receive any. The fire district comments I included in your staff report, and their general condition is included in the condition that I proposed. Engineering, kind of the same scenario here, included the conditions at the end of my staff report, and pretty standard comments from engineering. So staff analysis: the comprehensive plan land use map allows land use to be stretched, one parcel deep. Commercial designation likely due to its proximity to Caldwell Boulevard, a major commercial corridor. I think the idea was, hey, if this area is developing, we would like this commercial corridor to be commercial. But there's already existing industrial in the area. City concerns about losing commercially designated property to other land uses has been expressed in the past from City Council, but again, this is a case-by-case basis. Proposed use is metal flex space building for commercial uses. Those I'm not, the commercial uses is a general term that they've used. They're limited to the uses that are allowed per the IL zone. Metal flex space buildings could allow industrial and commercial uses because the IL zone does give some commercial uses. And then just the context of the area is primarily industrial. Here's the proposed conditions of approval, which include all the comments from fire and engineering. Here's the proposed findings. The property owner has shown consent by signing an affidavit of legal interest, giving the applicant authority to apply for the annexation. The property is contiguous with the city limits to the south and north sides of the property. The proposed area of annexation is included in the comp plan. The impact area, the comp plan map, it matches the future land use map designation because you can stretch it. And then the IL zone is allowed in industrial, which is what is being stretched. The next one doesn't apply because there's no right-of-way being dedicated. And these are for zoning. The proposed IL zoning district is in harmony with the city's currently adopted comp plan. The future land use map matches in the code. It lists IL as an allowed use for industrial. With the proposed conditions of approval, the proposed map amendment provides for a set of uses reasonably compatible with those in the area because the land use in the area are primarily industrial. And it's consistent with the comp plan and the future land use map. And then I think this is the last one. The proposed map, proposed amendment are or would be in the interest of the public and reasonably necessary because industrial development is an essential component of city needs and interests and is supported by the comprehensive plan, including infill. In addition, the area is already developed or is developing and city services are available or are already being provided in the area. So with that, I have a couple of motions for your consideration and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Rodney on this one? All right. Let's move on to public testimony. Is there anybody signed up, Madam Clerk?
No, Mr. Chair, there is no one signed up.
Okay. Anybody here that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on the application? All right. Seeing none.
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Do you have anything else to add? You good? All right.
Okay, motion to close public hearing.
Second.
A motion to close a public hearing by Commissioner Miller and a second by Selman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is closed.
I would like to say that I agree with the city's concerns of losing commercial space on the boulevard, but I agree with Rodney's reasons for allowing this as well. I don't want to see us stretching it all the way to the boulevard, I guess is all I'm saying. I just wanted that out there. Because I haven't said enough tonight.
Yeah, right.
Might as well make the motion just so you can keep talking.
I'll move to recommend approval of the annexation and zoning to IL zoning district for this parcel at 0 Landon Lane for Steel National representing Victor Onofrichuk with all conditions listed in the staff report and to adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Morgan and a second by Daffer to recommend approval of the annexation and zoning to IL. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That will also move on to council. Thank you for your time this evening and patience. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
A motion and a second to adjourn the public hearing. All those in favor say aye. The second was Kehoe.
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Nice to have everybody all together tonight.
Yeah.